Good morning, everyone. So we would like to welcome you all to our English Maritime course. So I'll be your instructor for today. My name is Elaine. And for today, on our week 72, day 2, we will be discussing or the continuation about the external medical assistance. So still, it was requested by the Gyumyang Shipping Seafarers. So I have here some our topic for today. So we have the role of the MRCC or the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, and then the telemedical assistance services, the coordinating helicopter evacuations, and the helicopter commands or something, the visuals during the emergencies or rescues. And then we have here the coordinating to the small boat transfer. So, and then we have the communication with the shore hospital and reporting changes in the patient status. And lastly, the documentation and the radio log. So we will going to tackle one by one of all of these topics. So first we're going to discuss the role of the MRCC or the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center. So the MRCC stands for the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center or the command and coordination hub for all search and rescue operations within the specific geographical area. So Search and Rescue Region or the SRR. So first is I have here the core function and responsibilities. So the MRCCs operate 24/7 to ensure the safety of life and property at the sea. So their primarily functions include receiving the distress alerts. So monitoring emergency frequencies and satellites linked to receive distress calls from the vessel or aircraft in trouble. And then they also coordinating with the SAR operations, meaning that directing and supervising all aspects of search and rescue mission, including the developing action plans and activating the appropriate resources like the Coast Guard ships, aircrafts, and nearby merchant vessels. Another one is the information management. So gathering the real-time data, plotting incidents on charts, and sharing information with all the relevant national and international partners and neighboring RCCs. And then they need also for providing some medical assistance. So, coordinating the medical evacuation of the serious injured or ill person from the vessel when they can require an urgent treatment ashore. And of course, the communication. So, acting as the central point of contract for all the durations of an incident, including the external communications with the press and the public when necessary. So the global network of the MRCCs, they operates under the framework of the International Convention of Maritime Search and Rescue and International Aeronautical and Maritime Search and Rescue, or what we call the IAM SAR manual. So this one, it ensures that the standardized procedures and effective cooperation across the international borders. In some cases, the Joint Rescue Coordination Center or the JRCC may be the established, combining responsibility for both maritime and aeronautical search and rescue operations. So the MRC, they simply or they just take over the organizational burden. So your job is to provide them with the necessary functional updates about the ship's status and the patient's conditions for the logistic planning. So the Maritime Rescue Coordination is the primary center for the organizing and coordinating the maritime search and rescue. So within the designated search and rescue region. So its role is to receive the distress alerts 24/7, assess the situations, and coordinate all available resources, including the vessels, aircrafts, and specialized teams to respond to the maritime incidents. So, the MRCC's responsibilities including assisting vessels in distress, responding to aircraft incidents at sea, and coordinating medical evacuation for those with serious injuries or some illnesses. So as I said earlier, one of the roles of the MRCC is the 24/7 operations. So they operate continuously to receive the distress alerts, monitor the channels, and respond to the incidents at any time. And then another one is coordinating with the hub. So this one, it acts as the central point of the authority. So coordinating all the SAR facilities and resources for an operation even if the MRCC is not directly on the scene. And then there also belongs, or they have the roles also in the search planning. So based on the factors like the weather and the location of the incident, the MRCC develops and implements the search action plan. So during the incident response, the MRCC respond to the various incident. So this one, it includes the vessel in distress. They also have include the survivors of the maritime incident or any accident. They also include the aircraft crashes or forced landing at the sea. And then lastly, the medical evacuations from vessels at the sea. So these are the incident responses. And then they also have a big role regarding the liaisons and the communications. So the MRCC communicates with the other agencies. So it includes the MRCCs, the Rescue Coordination Center, the military and the civilian authorities, and of course the international organizations, just to ensure the seamless operations. So maritime safety and security. In addition to SAR, MRCCs play a role in maritime safety by registering the ship equipment and, in some cases, coordinating response to the threat of like the piracy. And then lastly, the on-scene coordinations. So the MRCC, they assign an on-scene coordinator, or what we call the OSC, from the first responding facility to take operational control of the search and rescue efforts at the locale of the incidents. So it's really need that they provide with the necessary functional updates about the ship status and the patient's conditions regarding those incidents. So here's the key points. So coordinates all the search and rescue operations, including the medical evacuation. And then, of course, the communication. So the primary point of contact after the initial distress and the urgency alerts. Under the SMCP, you can say that clear and non-emotional reporting is very important for the MRCC to make a rapid decisions. So they don't need, or it's not a good idea if you're going to report in a panic mode or in the distress mode. So it is still part of the emergency um, responses in the maritime industry is what we call the TMAS, or the Telemedical Assistant Services. So in maritime industry, it provides the remote medical advice and support to the ships at the sea via radio, satellite, or the internet. So this one, it ensures that the seafarers receive a timely medical guidance when they are far from land-based medical facilities. So the service is very crucial for diagnosing and treating the medical emergencies. But with the coordinating the evacuation, if necessarily, and helping the ship's captain, who are the only one legally responsible for the medical care on board. So all IMO member states are required to provide a TMAS center that operates 24/7. So how these TMAs work? So they have a remote consultations. So the ship captains or responsible officer contacts a designated TMA center for the medical advice. And then communication can be rough through some various channels. So it including the marine radio, the telephone, fax or email, and can be also a modern video conferencing and the satellite system. So this how are they going to communicate when they are on the sea. And then the medicals, some medical professionals. So in the TMAS, sa TMA Center, there are some staff by doctors that train in a remote consultations. And then the maritime specific medical needs. So those are also, they provide also some professionals for the for the diagnosing through online or communicating via video calls or through emails or phone. So the diagnosis and the treatment advice. So here the TMA's doctor, they provide an advice based on the information provided by the crew and the ship's available medical supplies and the equipment. So the doctor will just have provide those advice based on the information. So the doctor will ask some basic information regarding the patients and the some first aid or anything treatment that already given to the patient. It also coordinates with the rescue center. So the TMAS often works with the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center or the MRCCs. So to coordinate more complex situations such as the medical evacuations or the dispatch of the medical personnel to the ship. So these are the responsibilities and regulations of the TMAs. Of course, we have here the ship's master. So the shipmaster's captain is the ultimately responsible for the medical treatment of the individual on board and also the final decision regarding the treatment and the evacuation rests with them. So, if the captain or the masters fail to contact the TMAS when necessary could result in a legal consequences. So the TMAS doctor, they provides an expert advice but does not have direct control over the patient. And then it also have some the international obligations. So the all seafaring nations are obligated by the International Maritime Organization or the IMO to provide a free 24/7 TMAS for all the ship. So the TMAS is your dedicated resources. So it treat the call as if you are taking directly to the doctor in the emergency. And of course, you should be also organized and use the star format to deliver the information efficiently. So you still remember the star format? Okay. Then when we have already this already coordinates or already have the diagnosis from the TMAS or in the doctors or any professionals, we need now to coordinating with the rescue operator or the helicopter rescue or air sea rescue coordination. So, when coordinating the helicopter medical evacuation, so in the maritime industry, the primarily involves contacting the nearest maritime rescue coordination center or the MRCC or the TMAS or the telemedical assistance services. Following with a clear shipboard emergency response plan. So the process requires a clear communication and specific preparation on the ship to ensure a safe transfer. So how are we going, or what are those coordination steps? So first is the assess the situations and provide some first aid. So the onboard crew should first assess the injured or ill person, provide the immediate medical care using the ship's medical guide and supplies. And then the second one, when we're done applying some first aid, if needed, we're going to seek some telemedical advice. So the master should contact the international or commercial TMAS. So this one is the for expert medical consultation. So the TMAS doctor will help determine the severity and the need for evacuations. And then the next step, seek or contact the MRCC or rescue authorities. So, if offshore assistance or evacuation is necessary, the master must contact the nearest MRCC or the coastal authorities using the available communication method. So what are those? So it can be the VHF or channel 16, the Inmarsat or through the satellite phone. So the master must contact. And the next step they're going to do is to provide some essential information. So the ship should be prepared to provide some specific detail regarding the vessel and the patient to the Rescue Coordination Center. So what are those simple or basic information? So first we have the vessel information. So of course it includes the name, the call sign and the flag, and the position. It can also be the port of the departure or the destination and the ETA. And then the next one is the patient information. So this one, it is the name, the rank, and the age. It also includes the nationality and then the symptoms, location of the pain, pre-existing medical conditions, and if it taking some other treatments that already administered to the patient. And then there also be the onboard capabilities. So medicine chest availability or any machines that they can be used in the presence of the medical personnel. So all of these should be included or provided the information. And then next, and of course, is to follow the instruction. So the ship's crew must follow the instruction of the helicopter pilot or the search and rescue operation coordinator at all times. So this includes the maintaining a radio watch on a designated frequency and the potential charging or changing in the vessel course and the speed to facilitate the operations. So this is still part of the steps to be followed is the prepare the hoist arrival or the hoist area. So the crew should prepare the clear area on the deck. So by securing the all loose gear, awning, and rigging. So the area should be well lit at night and avoiding lights that could blind the pilot. And the ship should display a flags or pennants to indicate wind direction. So next one is the last the last step is the conduct the hoist. So this one, so conduct the hoist. First is allow the rescue hook or wire to touch the deck to discharge the static electricity before anyone handled it. And then use some steadying line to control the rescue basket or the stretcher, but never make a line fast to the vessel. So it must be coiled into a bucket or similar arrangement. And then you need also to use some clear hand signal to communicate with the helicopter crew during the process. But to do all of this, so we have here some organizations that involved in the search and rescue. So first, as I said earlier, the MRCC, this is the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center. So the primary shore-based coordinating center is responsible for organizing and providing the search and rescue services within that defined area. And then the telemedical assistance services, or what we call the TMAS. So the service staff by qualified doctors who provide the 24/7 remote medical advice to the ship and help to coordinate evacuation if needed. So again, it should be the telemedical assistants are qualified doctors. And then we also have some coastal authorities. So the local organizations such as the US Coast Guard or the Philippine Coast Guards that provide the physical air or surface assets for evacuations. So it is depend on the local organizations. And then lastly, the International Maritime Organization or the IMO and the ICAO. So this is the International Civil Aviation Organization. So these bodies jointly publish the IMSAR manual, which provides the international guidelines for the search and rescue and the medical evacuation operations. So those are the organizations involved. So we have the MRCCs, the TMAS, and of course the coastal authorities, and lastly the IMO and the ICAO. So the medical evacuation, it requires the precise ship landing or ship handling, I mean. So the helicopter pilot need an exact and simple instruction on the ship status. So here, the points to remember, or some information to remember. So it provides an expert medical advice to the ship's crew that often a 24/7. And then they can be communicated through satellite phone, Inmarsat, or the dedicated medical service link. And to do all of this during the emergency, so you have the preparation. So how you should have all the patient's data, like the vitals, history, and symptoms ready. It should be all ready before calling the TMAS. So we have here now the air and sea rescue coordination. So the air sea rescue coordination, or what we call the medical evacuation, in the maritime industry, this is very or highly regulated process governed by the international convention and coordinated with the primarily be by the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center, or the MRCCs. So the key guidelines are detailed in the joint of the IMO and ICAO. So these are the International Aeronautical and Maritime Search and Rescue Manuals. So I have here first the organizations that belongs or involved. So I said earlier, the IMO and the ICAO. So these are the UN agencies that jointly publish the IMSAR manual. So this one, they provide the global framework and guidelines for sea and rescue operations. So it also includes the medical evacuations. And then the RCC, or the Rescue Coordination Center. So these are the shore-based. So they are the shore-based facilities that responsible for the coordinating the SAR and the med evacuation. So they are again responsible for the SAR and the med-evac operations within a designated SAR, and so the an MRCC, it handles the maritime incidents, while it joined by the RCC and JRCC coordinates for both maritime and the aeronautical rescues. So we have here also the on-scene coordinators. So when the multiple rescue units are involved, the MRCC or the JRCC designates an OSC, or usually the master of the most qualified vessel on the scene. So this one, it will coordinate the immediate rescue efforts. And then we have also the TMAS. So this one, the MRCC, it established the relationship with the TMAS Center to provide an expert medical advice to ship at the sea 24/7. And then we have some national authorities. So this could be the local entities like the in the US, the US Coast Guard or the Philippine Coast Guard serve as the national SAR services. So operating and physical rescue units. And then we have the process from the distress to evacuation generally follow these steps. So the first step is the stress alerts and initial assessment. So the ship crew first follow their onboard medical emergency plan and uses the telemedical services for advice. So if the situation is beyond the ship's capacity, so the master issue or the captain will issue a distress alert. And then using the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System or the GMDSS. This is used by to notify the nearest MRCC or JRCC. And then it will be followed by coordination and plan development. So the MRCC or the JRCC receives the alert, and then they going to gather the facts or some informations and develop a search and rescue action plan. So they coordinate available resources. So this one, it might be involved by rerouting the nearby merchant vessels or deploying dedicated rescue aircraft vessels. So it could be on the I think a case to case or it depends on the situations. And then the next step will be the onboard preparations and communications. So the ship's crew prepares the patient and clear landing or hoisting area on deck. So it will securing all loose gear, and constant communication is maintained with the rescue helicopter or the vessel at the MRCC. And then following with the IMO standard, marine communication phrases, or what we call the SMCP, to avoid some language barrier. And then we have the next step is the rescue operations. So the helicopter winching. So this is the common method when weather permits. So as it requires the minimal ship assistance. So the rescue basket or the stroop is lowered to hoist the person. So an earthing lead must be allowed to touch the deck first to discharge some static electricity. And then the high line technique. So this is used for the rougher weather or stabilize the stabilize the rescue devices as it is lowered. And then we have the rendezvous at sea. So this one, it involves transferring the patients to another vessel. So with the better medical facilities or one that can reach the port faster. And then the last step is the post-rescue. So this is the patient is transported to the nearest appropriate medical facility. So for immediate and specialized care. So the master or the captain keeps a full record of the events and the decisions. So here is our important things to remember. So during the procedure, it requires the clear communications of the ship's course, speed, heading, and the hoisting arrangement. Then in the under the SMCP, I am preparing the casualty receiving area. Maintain a steady course of a 090 degrees, speed 5 knots. So this one is for the informing or giving also information under the SMCP. And under the safety, you use the VHF channel 6 or the designated tactic frequency for on-scene communications with the helicopter. So the medical evac, it requires the precise ship handling. So the helicopter pilot needs some exactly the information or simple instruction on the ship status. And of course, the prepared hoisting area. So this is the standard usage. The 90 degrees and the speed of 5 knots. So now is we have the helicopter communication or some visual signals. So in the maritime emergency, the specific visual signals facilitate a communication between the survivors and the rescue helicopters, especially when the radio communication is unavailable. So these signals are standardized by the international agreements like the International Aeronautical and Maritime Search and Rescue. So we have here the signaling for help or the distress. So first is raising and lowering the both arms repeatedly. So this is the international distress signals that repeated I'm sorry, this is the repeated raising and lowering the both arms and outstretched to each side. So this is the distinct for a casual wave or universally recognized as a sign of need. And then we also have some flares and smoke signals. So we have the orange smoke signal. So this one is the international standard for a daytime distress. So it produces the dense of orange smoke that is highly visible from the air. Then we have the red parachute or the rocket flares. So this is used for a long range alerts. So both day and night as it can seen for a great distance. And then we also have some hand flare. So this is used when the rescuers are close by the or by to a pinpoint the exact location. And then we also have some signal mirror or flashlight. So this is a flashing an SOS signals like a three short flashes or three long flashes. It can be also the three short flashes. So in the Morse code using a mirror, day or flashlight. And then strobe at night is very effective. So the high intensity, we have the distress or flag. So displaying a piece of orange colored canvas with a black squared and black circle for other appropriate symbol. So this is the daytime visual signals. And waving any brightly colored or contrasting cloth or flag is also also giving a helpful signal. So we have the air to surface and surface to air signals. So once the contact is made, specific signals are used to coordinate the rescue as a simple help needed signal that be confused or with the other general maritime signal. So for the survivor, the vessel signals. So this one is a surface to air. So the yes or I need help. How are we going to have a signal like this? It's just simply raise both arms and hold them to the form of the letter Y. And then for a no or I do not need help, stretch one arm up and one arm down to imitate the letter N. Then we have the safe to land here. So wave both arms vertically or use a white flag, light or play on a vertical motions. And then we have the landing here is dangerous. So wave a white flag or light or a flag horizontally. So this time it should be horizontally, or put one on the ground and move the second in the direction of the safer landing place. So safe land is vertical motion. Not safe is horizontally. And then we have here the aircraft signals or the air to surface. So this one, so the rescue aircrafts will use a signals to communicate back to the people on the surface. So first is message understood. Assistance will be given as soon as possible. So the aircraft will rock the swing or the wings daylight or flash its landing or navigation lights on and off twice. So this will be doing with the nighttime or darkest hour. And then message not understood or repeat. So the aircraft will fly a complete circle or vary engine tone or volume. So that's how they going or giving the aircraft signals. So it is to be familiarized with the proper signals and use a multiple method when possible to maximize the chances of the successful rescue. So this is the sample of the hand signal. The up. So repeated cross above the head, palms facing forward. So again, the visual signals, these are your secondary but necessarily when the noise or radio failure occurs. So ensure the designated signaling crew members knows these hand signals and perfectly and use them confidently. So here, it is during the ship to boat transfer. So the small boat medical rendezvous or the med rendezvous, it requires the meticulous coordination between the involved vessel and relevant shore-based authorities because it's emphasizing the communication, a through thorough risk assessment, and the specific safety procedures. So we have some coordination and communication for the boat transfer or medical rendezvous. So the process begins immediately upon the assessment of a serious medical situations. So this one cannot be handled on board. So first, we have the initial assessment. So the first responder assesses the patient's condition. So they need to gather all the relevant symptoms and the medical history. And then we have the radio medical advice. So the ship's master or the captains should contact the ATMAS for a professional medical advice. So typically using the Inmarsat SAC 32 or by calling a coast station via VHF or HF radio. And then the next one is contact the MRCC or the RCC. So, if the TMA's doctor recommends some evacuations, then the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center is notified immediately. And then the MRCC will now coordinate the evacuation. So this one may involve the rendezvous with a rescue boat or a helicopter. So it depends on these situations. And then we have the urgency signals. So the urgency signals, the Mayday Mayday or the Pan Pan that repeated 3 times should be broadcast on the VHF channel 16 or other appropriate distress frequency. This is to announce the message which has a priority over all other communication except the distress calls. And then we have some information exchange. So be prepared to provide the patient's conditions, the vessel's exact location, speed course, and the nature of the incidents to the MRCC. So all information should be accurate. And then we have the language. So the IMO or the SMCP should be used to avoid the misunderstandings due to the language barrier. And then lastly, the joint procedure. So here the TMAS and the MRCC will now collaborate. So, with the TMAS providing medical guidance and the MRCC handling the operational aspects of the transfer and onward transport to a hospital. So, they will now teamwork. So, TMAS and the MRCC will now become one. So when we're planning and execution, the actual transfer must be planned and detailed and agreed upon by both vessels and the relevant authorities. So first we have the risk assessment. So both masters must agree that the transfer is safe to attempt. So weather conditions, sea state, vessel compatibility, and the physical fitness of the persons being transferred are critical factors. So those are the what they need to consider. And then the weather window. So the transfer should be only be attempted in a calm sea and low wind conditions. So this is to avoid any risk of any more severe accident. And then designated area. So it should be the clear sea area should be chosen, taking into account traffic density, water depth, and the potential environmental hazard. So next we have the preparation on the ship. So first, the patient and all involved personnel must wear the appropriate personal protective equipment or the PPE and a suitable life vest. And then if they have a man overboard, the drill should be conducted if such transfers are routine for the vessels. And then the transfer area. It should be the clear from the obstructions, well lit, and clear of the water. And then the next one is the maneuvering and approach. So the transfer should be ideally occur on the leeward side or away from the wind of the larger vessel or for the shelter. And then for the small vessel, it should be approach the larger one slowly. So matching its course and speed, both vessels may need to be securely tied together. So in extremely calm conditions, but often the small boat will cooperate or will operate alongside using some fenders. And then the next step is the transfer procedures. So the personnel should not carry luggage or other impediment during the transfers. Items should be transferred separately. Maintain the 3 points of contact when using a ladder or crossing between the vessels. And then the receiving crew should be ready to assist and carefully hold the persons aboard at the lowest safe point. So, if the conditions are not safe or the personnel are uncomfortable with the transfer, the operation should be aborted. And then lastly, the post transfer. So, once the patient is safely on the receiving boat, the vessel separately carefully and the patient is transported to the nearest medical facility as previously arranged with the MRCC. So that's it. So for the boat transfer, it's just the master must communicate the sea conditions. So wind is force 5 from the west, sea state is moderate, something like that. And then you're going to use the pilot ladder or the accommodation ladder to confirm the transfer method. So those are the procedures or the process during the um for our emergency response in the maritime industry. So those are the external medical assistants. So you already know the role, how the or which the role of the MRCC during the emergency or the rescue cooperations, the TMAS. So how those step by step or how are they connected during the search and rescue operations. So that will be all for today. I hope you learned something. And again, this is your instructor Elaine for your English Maritime